Welcome everyone. My name is Steve Dahlberg and I'm the director of the Creative Problem Solving Institute, which is a program of the Creative Education Foundation. And the Creative Education Foundation's mission is to spark personal and professional transformation by empowering people with the tool set and the skill set and the mindset of deliberate creativity. And we're thrilled today to have this webinar with Alexandre from Stormz as one of the many examples of how to foster deliberate creativity. And we also want to say thank you to Alexandre and Isabel for their new partnership with us. They've been presenters and leaders with the CEF conference for quite a while, but we're happy to have a more formal partnership with them going forward this year around the Stormz tool particularly, and the work that they're doing with us on the webinar and coming up next year at CEF as well. This topic today is, I think, a particularly important one because I think that there's a lot of work we can all do to better bring creativity and technology together, both in terms of how creativity can help us change and improve technology, but also how technology can help enhance and improve the creative process. And so I think today is a great example, and we'll hear several examples of how that can be done. We'll particularly be looking at the Stormz tool, but it's one of many examples that we should all be keeping our eyes open for. And it's also a topic that I hope we will continue to grow at the CEF conference in terms of helping bring more topics about creativity and technology into the conference and disseminating what that looks like and what that means. So I want to hand it over to Alexandre and say again, thank you very much for leading us today.
Thank you very much, Steve. Well, thank you also for inviting us, and we are also thrilled by this new partnership with CEF. So let's start with this webinar. And I've seen the list of attendees, and I see that I know some of you. So hello, Beth. Hello, Christine. Hello, Clay. Marilyn, I see is there. A lot of people that I know. Also, a lot of people that I don't know. So hello, everybody. And maybe I can present myself in just about 3 or 4 keywords. And when you ask people about me, one of the first things they say is, well, that's the crazy guy with the red glasses. And well, you can see I have my red glasses. But it's not the only thing. As you have heard with my strange, odd, weird, or terrible French accent, well, I come from France, and I'm really sorry for all of you. You will have to endure these terrible French accents for about 1 hour. The other things that characterize me is that I'm a facilitator. I've been facilitating meetings since about now 20 years, maybe 17 years. I started with some kind of creative problem-solving methodology at 3M. I was also a Six Sigma black belt. I've implemented Agile and Scrum within my last company, and I'm doing some lean startup with my new company here now since 5 years. So I've seen a lot of process, and I can say now that I'm completely process agnostic. What I do, on the contrary, is totally rely on the underlying principle. But that's another topic. And my last hat is I'm the co-founder of Stormz, a company that I created 5 years ago, 5 years and a half. That is important. And Stormz is all about collaboration. We build, we implement, we designed collaboration solution in order to make group more effective when they collaborate together so that they make more value. So that's all about me. The other thing that is important in this kind of webinar is you. And I try to inject a little bit of interactivity in this webinar. It's not a collaborative session, of course, but I'll try to interact a little bit with some of you. So with Zoom, you have some limited capabilities, and we will be using them. One of them is questions. So you have the possibility of asking questions normally on the bottom of your screen, I think. Is that right, Isabel? Yeah, in the bottom of the screen, there is a Q&A button. You can ask as many questions as you want. I won't be able to answer all of them, but of course, we will collect all of them and send you the answers if I don't have the time during the webinar. The other thing is that we will be doing some quick polling from time to time. And well, I think we can start right now. I want to know two things about you. I want to know your mood, because it's important. I want to know if you're in good mood or in bad mood, because, well, I hope you will be in good mood. So, and we're going to use a metaphor. We're going to ask you, what's your current weather? Is your mood much more like bright sun? Is it much like slightly cloudy or dark clouds or maybe heavy rain? So you will be able to answer that in a couple of minutes, about 20 seconds. And at the same time, I ask you another question. I want to know what kind of thinker you are. So I'm using the Foresight profiles. So those of you who have already done the assessment, you already know the answer. That's easy. Those of you who don't know, haven't done this assessment, just use your intuition. Are you much more of a clarifier? So a clarifier is someone who seeks to understand before acting. Are you much more of an ideator? You enjoy playing with the ideas, you seek novelty, you seek venture. Are you much more of a developer? Someone who likes to refine an idea and transform it into a full-blown solution? Or are you much more an implementer, someone who wants to focus into the action and like to move forward? So I'm going to launch the poll. And normally you should be able to see on your screen the two questions. And you can, I'm going to give you 25, 30 seconds to answer that. In the meantime, I have Isabel in front of me. Isabel, do you know what kind of profile you are?
You do want to know what's my weather today?
No, I want to know your profile.
Okay, so my profile is a clarifier.
You're a clarifier. For your information, Isabel is working with me to develop Stormz in North America. She's also my wife. She's a clarifier. I am an ideator. Yeah. So you can see both sides of it. Either it's very painful to be married with someone who is a clarifier or an ideator, or you see it as you are a very good team because one of you is a clarifier and the other is an ideator. Okay, so I see that 72% of you have already voted. Come on, last seconds. Ah, that's interesting. Okay, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. It looks like we are at NASA launching a rocket. Okay, so let's end the poll now. And I'm going to share the result with you. So I'm relieved because for most of you, you are in a very good mood with a bright sun. Some of you, it's slightly cloudy. I know this is real life. I see that 2 of you have some heavy rain. So I hope it's not too much of a problem. Of course, if you need to do something else because you have some troubles, well, I will let you go. And I hope it's not too much of a problem. What is interesting is that we have a lot of ideator between all of you. So you like to see new things, you like to explore new concepts, and I hope that today I will be able to answer your needs. I see also that we have a lot of clarifiers. And clarifiers, I think that it is a presentation that's going to show you a lot of different things, but not dive into the small details of all these different things. So maybe you might feel a little bit of frustration from time to time because I don't have the time to cover everything. So keep your questions. Maybe I'll answer them during the webinar. Maybe I'll answer them after so that you have all the details that you need. I see also that we have some developers and some implementers, and I hope that you're going to implement some of the stuff that I'm going to show you today. So this was the first little poll. and you need to close the window so that you can see my, my slide again. Okay, so let's move forward. And we are still in the introduction. I think it's important to share with you what's in the scope of this webinar and what is out of the scope. So in the scope, we have ways to leverage technology. That's really the main topic, how we leverage technology in the context of facilitating, ideating, and training. I'm going to focus on one kind of activity, which is the thing I do a lot, which is collaborative activities. So a collaborative activity is where everyone participates, and by having this collaboration between everybody, it creates value. We're going to have a look at that in the context of meetings, of course, collaborative meetings only, not presentation of results. We're going to look at that in a context of learning, so it can be during a training session or during in a school or in a classroom, and we're going to do that in the context of events. Sorry, I was disturbed by a question. Someone want to see Isabel too. So Isabel, can you quickly come and say hello?
Hello to everybody.
So let me continue. And just for your information, yes, this webinar will be recorded, and I'm going to not answer the question just at each time like that. I have some specific slot during my presentation where I will look at the different questions. So let's continue on the scope. We will look at online and in person, because a lot of people think that digital is only for online. This is obvious, but it's also a great enabler for doing great innovative stuff during in-person trainings. The one person that will be using this technology is a facilitator. But here, within facilitator, I include the trainers and the teachers, because a teacher, when they are organizing collaborative learning activities in their classroom, they are acting like a facilitator. So I will use the word facilitator even if you are a trainer or a teacher, because it's in a context of a collaborative activity. Then about technology. I'm going to focus on the tools, on the technology that we, the Stormz teams, use every day, the one we master. And it's not going to be something specific about the technology. It's going to be about big principles. But we're going to show off the thing that we do every day, because there will be a lot of different case studies of real life workshops. If we look at what is out of scope, well, out of scope, it's not a training about online facilitation. It's not a training about how to use Stormz. It's plenty of little ideas of how we use the technology to leverage. It's all really to inspire you, and we want you then to explore all these little ideas. Not in scope also, it will not be an overview of all the technology that we have on the market, though I will give you a link of a very interesting article about that. So this is about the scope. So now it's time to vote with your feet. And if you don't like the topic of this webinar, well, you can really go, I won't have any problem with you, at least not for very long. Okay, so for those of you who are still here, thank you very much for staying. So now we can start. So we're going to have a look at three main things that technology can help you do as a facilitator. Digital is going to help you to avoid groupthink. Digital is going to help you to engage remote participants. Digital will help you to engage larger groups. And I have a bonus category, a bonus chapter for this webinar. Digital gonna make your life easier. But before we start with how to, thanks to digital technology, I have a specific section which is how not to screw up because of digital technology. And I think it is very important. Throughout the 5 years that I've been using digital technology and promoting digital technology to everyone, I know that there are plenty of assumptions about digital. And sometimes by explaining and clarifying simple stuff, all these issues and constraints can disappear. So, before we start, I would like to launch another poll. I would like to know if you have ever screwed up a facilitation because of digital technology. So this is going to be very interesting. I'm going to share a new poll. Stop sharing this one. And I'm going to launch this one. Okay. So, dear participants, I would like to know if you ever screw up a facilitation because of digital technology. Never. Yes, but the consequence was minor. Yes, and it was annoying. Yes, and it was a disaster. So while you are voting and answering this question, well, I can tell you that on my side, I had a real disaster about 5 years ago. It was the 27th of June, 2012. I still remember this date, and it was a huge failure. And this is a teaser because I have a slide that I will explain exactly what happened to me. So I'm going to end the poll now. And I see that a few of you had, like me, a disaster with technology. So I hope that you are still open-minded. And yes, it was annoying. Oh, I need to share the results. I saw Isabel say, hey, you need to show the results. Don't hesitate to tell me just like that, okay? And a lot of you had some troubles. So I guess that the coming slides are going to be an answer to some of the stuff. Okay, let's go, stop sharing, you close the window, and we start. So the first thing that I really want to tell you about using digital to facilitate is that, of course not. Digital is no substitute to human interactions. Interacting with a screen is not a substitute to human interactions. And the picture that I'm showing you is not stock photo. It's actually a real photo from a workshop that I facilitated last week for a better start in London. And it is to show you that when we design, even if we have technology, well, we do a lot of stuff to foster human interactions in the room. So here I can do a lot of energizers through the screen, but here I just use a very simple energizer. I don't know if you know it, it's called the 1, 2, 3. You have to count up to 3 and then replace the 2 by something like that. And then it creates this kind of atmosphere in the room. The other thing that I do is that when I design my workshops, digital is just another tool, and I rely on one of the basic principles I rely is to really maximize the number of interactions. And I have a little framework that I'm going to show you using something very digital, which is a whiteboard. When I use a framework that is called the dot, the triangle, the circle, and the rectangle. Let me show you. Can you see the dot? I think you cannot see it. So this is the dot, this is the triangle, this is the circle, and this is the rectangle. Okay? So it means that when I design the different steps of my workshop, I think that some of the time I'm going to ask a question to the individual, the dot. So he's going to reflect by himself. Some of the time, the activity will be done by three people, the triangle. And the triangle is where you have deep debates and discussions, and even the introverts are very active in a triangle. Then, some of the time, I make people work in a circle, and they exchange what the key takeaways from the triangle discussion. And from time to time, I use the room, and I facilitate a large group discussion in the room. And this is the basic underlying mechanisms that I use when I design a large group workshop in a room, but also remotely. You will see that. I have some other tips and tricks that I use. Even if thanks to the technology, I'm able to make ideas fly from an iPad to another, from one side of the room to the other, it doesn't prevent me to complement that with having people move also. So I try to use everything that is at my disposal to create and maximize the human interactions. And sometimes in my workshop, well, I would say that 90% of the time is discussion, 10% of the time is on the iPad capturing the best of the discussion or voting or evaluating or stuff like that. So this is the first one thing that I wanted to share with you. And I got some other ones. So the other thing is about human interactions. Imagine you have laptops with big screens like that on the table. It creates a wall for discussion. You cannot discuss because you have the screen in between you and the participants. So this is one of the reasons that we use tablets. We use tablets because it's flat and it doesn't prevent people to discuss together. So using the digital technology is like that. It's plenty of little stuff that can make, when you accumulate all of them, that can make a huge difference in terms of participants' experience at the end. Okay, next slide. What time is it, by the way?
25.
Okay, let's go. The other thing is that it's not because you have a digital tool that can do a lot of things that you shouldn't use the other tools in your facilitation toolbox. You need to combine them. And here it's an example of a workshop I co-facilitated with Jonathan Brownstein in Montreal, and we've been using a tool that is called the product box, something that makes a strategy or a new service or a new product very tangible. And we've combined it with the digital platform, as you can see on the top, on the bottom right of the screen. And in fact, there's a lot of things that I love to do: prototyping, sketching, and even miming things. And these are things that eventually sketching I could do digitally, but I prefer to do it with pen and papers because the experience is better. But then I augment all this practice with using digital. I just wanted to show you something that I prepared here. So this is the platform, and here you see that we were using, so you have a lot of cards like post-it notes installed. Here, imagine people with a flip chart drawing something, then you can put it inside the tool. Here you had people doing a prototype. Again, you can take the picture of the prototypes from the different angles. And something that I really like, you can create photo stories using live ads. For example, if you want to have the people express a customer story or customer experience, you can do it like that. So you see here that Isabel has won something here, and maybe we can add a third picture of if she won something, it means that I did not win, so I lost. So I do like that. And this is the final step of our story in three little pictures. Oh, it's not this one. This one. So you see now that we have the story. So this is just to show you that we can, it's not because we have a digital tool that we should use only digital tool. So let's get back to my slides, if I can find them. I think it's here. Yeah. Another thing is that if you're using a tool, you should make sure that the tool can adapt to your process, not the other way around. So here it's another example that you have a process that you see that you can move the different steps. If you want to have 2 steps of idea generation, you can have. If you want in between the 2 steps to have a convergence step, well, you can do also. So in fact, you need a tool that is very flexible in terms of process flexibility. On the other hand, and we had this conversation with Isabel this morning, the digital gives you new possibilities. So you have also to be open-minded about changing your methodologies to the new possibilities that digital can bring you. So both, a little bit of both. You need a tool that can adapt your methodologies, and you need also to have new thinking about what you can do. Okay, let's go to the next one. One thing about technology, especially if you want to have it inside a room with, for example, top executive, well, you need it to be working. And if you want it to be working, you have to put it under control. And this is what I've been doing since about 5 years. And this is my one disaster 5 years ago. I think that was my second very large group workshop facilitation that I was doing in my life. I had 270 people in front of me, and the technology didn't work. All the iPads in the room were disconnected one by one. And after the event, we discovered that it was a problem from the IT guys from the venue in the way they set up their Wi-Fi network. But of course, the customer didn't care about that. And well, I lost this customer. So the next day, we had a conversation with Francois, my co-founder, and we said, well, something that should never happen. How can we put Wi-Fi under control? And this is where we invented the Stormz box. And I think that this disaster was, in fact, one of the best things that happened to us in the Stormz history. So the Stormz box is a little thing here, and it's a great way to have no more problem with Wi-Fi connectivity or internet bandwidth. But you need to put everything under control. And this is also why, even if the platform, the technology really works well with bring your own device, when we have top executives in the room, we don't want to waste, we don't want to lose the control. Imagine one of the smartphone can have no power or not the right update on it. So we bring everything. Of course, when I say that, there are some exceptions. If you're doing some workshops with your little team and you know that their laptops are working well, use the laptops. If you are using the technology in a classroom with the STEM students over and over again, well, of course, use the laptops of the students. I'm just saying that you really take care of putting everything under control. And by the way, as you do with everything else when you facilitate a workshop, this is an example of a workshop we did in June, where we had put everything under control about technology. And we asked for a prototyping material, pen, markers, and paper. And we just said markers and paper. And we had some terrible sheets of paper that were very dark with some terrible pencils that were very thin and very light. So we had to spend 45 minutes just before the workshop to sort out all the markers, to remove all the lighter ones and take only the dark ones. So this is to say all the other stuff need to be under control, and digital is no exception. Okay, so the last thing I wanted to say is about digital is that it is only a tool. And you need the experience, you need the expertise to use it the right way. So it's not because you are using a brainstorming tool that you will do some great brainstorming. In fact, I'm quite sure it will be the other way around. So if you need the facilitation skills, if you do some creative problem solving, you have, for example, CEF, which is great to acquire the creative problem solving skills. And by the way, Steve, are you here?
I am.
Yeah, I think that you have something to say about CEF.
I do. I thank you for the nice segue and reference. We just want to share that the Creative Problem Solving Institute, as I mentioned at the opening of the webinar, is an annual creativity conference that happens every June for more than 60 years in Buffalo, New York, and will be coming up again this June 2018. And we hope that you'll consider joining us at that, and also watch in the next couple of weeks for a call for proposals for presenting at that as well. I suspect many of you joining us today are trainers and facilitators that might have something to offer, and we'd look forward to receiving that and hopefully having you join us in June, and also Alexandre as well, to perhaps meet him and to learn more in person about what we're talking about today. So,
well, thank you very much. One thing for sure is I will be there. So thank you very much for this update. So that was the different tips and tricks on how you can avoid screwing up your facilitation because of digital. The one thing that you can also screw up because of digital is forgetting to connect your computer. I just had an alert, and now it's okay. What I wanted to give you is the metaphor. Think of your digital tools as an exoskeleton to suit for facilitators. You still can use your low-tech tools, you just augment their capacity, and you still need the expertise, and you may need also new expertise to make the most of your exoskeleton. Okay, let's get to the first benefit of what you can do thanks to digital. So how to avoid groupthink thanks to digital technology. So group bias, you know, is one of the things that when you facilitate, you have to take care, of course, and you have plenty of ways of taking care of that, and digital is one of them, and sometimes it makes things a lot easier. One of the examples I wanted to give you is, well, organizing a silent brainstorming. You know, when you see only your own ideas, you are not influenced by hearing or seeing the ideas of everyone else in the room. Well, this is very easy to do with a digital brainstorming platform. Here, I wanted to show you that there is a little filter here where you can decide if the participant can see only their own ideas. And then in one click of a button, you can change that and show all the others' ideas. But it's up to you to decide. Another thing that I wanted to show you is that with a digital tool like that, well, all the contributions just look alike. Where is the contribution of the boss? Well, I don't know. Where is the contribution of the trainee? Well, I don't know. So I'm not influenced by that. And by the way, also, as they all look alike, they all have the same chance. There is no post-it notes which is badly written that won't be read by everybody. Everything is written the right way. And by the way, if you wanted to know, the trainee's idea is here and the boss idea is here. Okay, another thing about voting. I don't know if you know about dot voting. One of the big problems of dot voting is that a dot attracts other dots. So when you're dot voting on your post-it notes, when you see an idea with a lot of dots, you cannot change it, but naturally you will go to this idea. Of course, there are ways to overcome that with the tech tools, but with the brainstorming tool, electronic tool, well, it's very easy. We have several ways to avoid all the voting bias. The one thing I wanted to show you, several things on both these pictures. So you see the screen of a trainee here and the screen of the boss, they have different order. The sorting order of the card is different. This is to avoid the reading bias. And this would be very difficult to avoid with a wall of post-it notes, because it will be always the same that is on the top left. And you know that in our Occidental culture, we always start with the top left. And it gives a really a huge bias when reading the ideas. The other thing here that you can see is that they see only their own vote, not other people's vote. So that cannot be influenced by the vote of the boss again. And the other thing that I wanted to show is that we can hide my own ideas. For example, on the trainee screen, the trainee won't see her own ideas, and the boss won't see her own ideas, so you cannot vote on your own ideas. So randomizing the order, not showing the vote of the others, and not showing your own ideas, so you cannot vote on them. 3 ways to organize a vote without influence. This is a kind of case study of how a new real-time visualization can redefine decision-making. So this is something that has been done by one of our customers. They have redesigned, it's a large consultancy, they have redesigned the way they are conducting their risk assessment, and meetings are now quicker and the consensus is better. So before they were using an Excel chart, and everybody, when assessing a risk, everybody was saying, well, it's a low risk, well, it's a high risk, it's a 3, it's a 5, it's a 6. And they were trying to facilitate that and trying to find a consensus and then writing down that on an Excel chart. Using the digital platform, they have totally changed the way they do it. First of all, they have a silent evaluation using an evaluation feature on a multi-criteria feature. Then they display the result. And everyone's opinion, I can show you on the next slide, everyone's opinion is displayed like that. And then you can have a discussion. Alexandre and Isabelle, you seem to disagree on the feasibility. The feasibility is the size of a bubble. Can you explain why? Maybe you can give your opinion. So it's a very quiet discussion based on this visualization. And then, if there is no consensus, after the discussion, they get back again to the silent evaluation. And the idea is that we see that the light gray bubble, the bubble from the different people in the room, nearly approach the average bubble, meaning that there is a consensus. And when there is a consensus, they take the decision and they can go to the next risk assessment. So this is basically how having a new tool, having this possibility to have a real-time visualization of the consensus, change the way you can design your own meeting, even if there is only 5 people in the room. Okay. So finally, I wanted to show you some quotes of how digital can help you engage students. So the aim is not to explain you how to do these collaborative activities. There are plenty of ways of engaging students through collaborative activities. If you're interested, we can talk about that. But these are 2 testimonials. One of them is before I had always the same 10 students raising their hands, and I have 90 of them in my auditorium. Now 85% of them are contributing something. And also a text I received from Delphine 1 week ago, and she said, wow, it saved my life. I had a very small room with 30 students stuffed in it, no window, and I was able to use the digital tool to create these little activities and engage all the people very easily. So sometimes it makes things easier like that. Okay, so I've talked a lot, and I think that you need to stretch. So do like with me, stretch your muscles. Yeah, Isabelle, I see that you follow me.
Yes.
And also, I want you to stretch your brain, and I want you to tell me how many squares you see in this little picture. So how many squares do you see in this little picture? And I'm going to launch a new poll called the Square Game. And tell me how many squares can you see in the pictures? Some of you might know it. I've not invented this game, and by the way, I have a great book. By Bruce. I still need to have your handwriting on it. So, no, I don't think he's here, but maybe someone can pass the word. I want a little autograph on it. Okay, oh, I see that it's a difficult exercise. I have to tell you that the first time I did it, well, I was not able to find all of them. I was way behind. Okay, let's last 10 seconds. Take your best guess, and I'm going to end the poll. Up. And I'm going to share the results. So, the majority of you thinks that there is 26 squares maximum in this picture. Well, I'm relieved to see that I was not the only one to miss some of the squares. So let me show you the answer. You have to remove your window. So in fact, there are 30 squares on this. You have the 16 little squares. You have the 17 and 18 here. And then you have the 4 squares on the extremities. And then you have all the squares like that. And then you have the final 4 squares here. So these are the ones that a lot of you have missed, I guess. So congratulations for those of you. I don't remember how many of you had the correct answer. Congratulations, you're way better than me. So that was the little break in order to stretch your body and your brain. Let's go back to the presentation. Digital is, of course, a great way to engage remote teams. And before I start about that, I want to tell you that you have 2 technology layers that you need for synchronous virtual meetings. And they are totally different. You have the communication layer. So it's a way to talk all together. And it can be a chat, a text chat, it can be phone. So sometimes it's just enough. Or it can be a video conference, and also there is all this crazy excitement about virtual presence. And I must say that in some case, this would be very useful, virtual presence, but for some sessions, for some activities, chat might be just fine. The other layer is about collaboration. With the first layer, you can speak all together quite well, but it's not a great way to collaborate on ideas. So you have collaborative documents such as Google Doc. You have a lot of virtual whiteboards application, which are great if you have a limited number of concepts or ideas and you want to show how they spatially connect to each other. And you have process-based tools such as Stormz, which also include a process in themselves. If you want a full overview of collaboration tool, there is a little link here. I'm going to send you the link to all the participants, and you will be able to have a review of 27 tools. So it's very extensive and very well done. I love the people at Lucid Meeting. They are very, very professional. Something I wanted to highlight, you remember my great drawing? Yeah, the dot, the triangle, the circle. One of the big frustration where you are doing online synchronous sessions with, let's say, 15 people or 20 people is that you cannot have everybody talking. So in order to avoid that, Zoom provides a virtual breakout room. In one click of a button, you can create a virtual room with only 3 people in it, so the triangle, and they are able to speak. Great feature. There is another tool called Maestro Conference who does that. The one we are using is Zoom. And then there is the future. This is the one concept I'm terribly excited about it, and we are really looking into that at Stormz very in depth. It's transforming this in-person synchronous sessions into something else, into the never-ending workshop. Thank you, Cameron, for this formulation. So right now, all of us, I think we have problem of time. We have something like one day, if we are lucky, maybe half a day, and we have to do the gather data, find inspiration, generate ideas, and develop solutions, all of that. And we have to make choices on where we put our focus because we don't have enough time. What I'm proposing is that we totally transform the way we do meetings by creating hybrid sessions that span across days and combine remote, in-person, synchronous, and asynchronous. There are some things that are better done synchronously, such as I really like to do the generation of ideas synchronously. But there are some things that are better done slowly, asynchronously. For example, finding inspiration. For example, the convergence. It always takes a lot of time if you want to have a look at all the seeds of ideas that you've generated. If you do that asynchronously, you will have more time. You will do a much better convergence. And then also there is another thing on top of that. You finally find a way to add incubation in your process. And incubation is something that is really missing in nowadays world. Okay. Last topic that I want to share with you, how to engage larger groups. Thanks to digital, of course. So this is something we do a lot at Stormz, and I think now we have a kind of system that really works well. And before, I wanted to ask you very quickly what size of group you are actually facilitating. So let me show you that. Just if you can give me the answer so I have an idea of the size of group that you are using, small groups, medium group, large groups. Okay. Okay. So I see that most of you have 10 to 20 people in their groups. Some of you have 20 to 40, and some of you have less than 10. And very few of you have about hundreds or more than 160. You can see the results here. So what I'm going to show you, it works for a very large group, 100 people, but it also works with 20 or 40 people. And it's a great system. So let me show you. Again, click to close the window. So this is a 3D representation of a typical setup that we use. By the way, I use a tool called SketchUp to do this, and I customize them for each one of my clients. And it works really well to show how we transform any venue into a collaborative space. So it's one of the ways of doing it. And here you find again that we have our circle of discussion. Here they are made tangible by a table, but table is might be an option. You see also that we have this triangle, again, one tablet per triangle. You see that we have a huge screen to be able to share the result in real time. And we just need one facilitator for all of these people. Also, you see that here we have a Stormz box again to put under control our Wi-Fi connectivity. And here we also have a reading table if we want to do clusterization or stuff like that. So this concept is totally extensible. Let me show you. This was a 1,200 participant workshop, all of them inside the same room, using some very sophisticated techniques. So you can do it. What you can also do is just stick to the methodology that you know. World Cafe, open space technology. So this is here an example of an open space technology, and use the technology just to augment them. For example, for the OST, you give one tablet for each one of the group, and one of them is going to be the reporter, is going to take pictures of the flip chart, is going to capture all the key takeaways, and then you press on a button and you have everything captured at the end of the session. And a very example for the World Cafe, one of the things that is very difficult in the World Cafe, well, to my experience, is the harvest phase. Well, here it's so easier. At the end of each round, you capture the key takeaway from the discussion, and you have everything in the system. And then you can have a last round where that will be the harvest phase, where people can comment on others' takeaways. You can vote. You can display an insight cloud with all the different keywords. So you can do great things. So no need to change your practice. Just add a little spice of digital to make things better. Finally, digital can make your facilitation life easier. Sorry, Mr. Facilitator, our boss wants you to change the wording. Oh my God, I have to reprint 100 sheets of paper. Well, with digital, yes, no problem, sir. Tuck, and you do it and you're a star. Of course, it's also a way to adapt whenever you want. If you see the context is different from what you thought at the beginning, you can change. Another thing I wanted to show you is that the export. So that was before and now that's after. You click on one button and you have a Word report here on the left. On the right, you see an Excel export of a quiz, etc., etc. Another thing I wanted to tell you is during the workshop, things can go very quicker, much more quicker with digital. You can, the result of the vote, you press one button, you show a nice bar chart with all the results. I mean, such a gain of time. You can do much more things in 20 minutes that you were able to do with analog tools. So this is what I wanted to show you. It was a lot of different things, not very in depth, sorry clarifiers, but I'm available for conversation after that if you need. Very quickly, to avoid the pitfalls, do not substitute screen interaction with human interactions, combine all the tools, find a tool that can adapt to your process, cultivate your expertise and put everything under control so that you can benefit from all the great things that technology can provide you, avoiding groupthink, engaging remote participants, engaging larger groups, make your facilitation life easier. And questions? And maybe you have some questions. So let me have a look. So I see that some of if everyone doesn't have iPad, can people use their smartphones? Yes, the technology support any kind of device, iPad, smartphones, etc. Again, it's a question on how much do you want to control the technology. One of the problems with smartphone, for example, is that they have all their emails on the smartphone. This is such, well, they want you to look at them. Many questions. Zoom breakout rooms recorded as separate conversation. Oh, that's a good question. I have to look at that. Will Alexandre be presenting at CREA in April? Of course, I won't miss CREA, so I hope so. Otherwise, it's very far away. So great intro. Thank you very much. What is the learning curve? Is it worth the time to teach participants the tool if you only have a couple of hours? So the learning curve for facilitators, it has to be trained, but for the participants, there is no learning curve. It's about 25 seconds. You show where to click for the question, and then they do it. So really no time. How to avoid that everyone keeps looking at their digital device when they're supposed to engage? Well, this is what I try to show you is that 85% of the time is engaging, is discussion, and only when it is needed, I ask them to put something into the device, and otherwise the device stays away. It would be fun if you could engage us in this webinar to use the tool. Yeah, I know, but this webinar was 90% top-down, 10% interactive, and slight interaction. It was not really collaborative, so, and I wanted to go fast. But Steven, if you want, you contact me and we'll do a demo together. Other than CPC, how and where do we learn Stormz? I have an answer for that. Do you have a trial version? Yes, there is. You have to go on the website and you can create an account. Is there a Duke that deals with what you say, also SketchUp? There might be some books, but all that I've shared is really my own experience and expertise. All the other questions, I think I'm going to answer later and send by email because I want to be respectful of your time. And I see that it's 56, so we still have 4 minutes. I hope that you really enjoyed that. So just in case you enjoyed it and you want to go deeper and understand what Stormz can do about, we have the discussion with Steve and we decided to offer a special price for the online asynchronous training session of Stormz. So you have 20% off. There is a link here and you will be able to register with the rebate. And of course, we'll send that by email so you don't have to rush to transcribe the URL. Steve, a final word?
Sure. First of all, I want to thank you very much for sharing a lot with us in a very short amount of time. And I actually got to experience several of the things you talked about last week at another conference I was at using a different tool. But the great thing, as you said toward the end, is it involved many people in a large room with a few hundred people. And it was a totally different kind of general session than a talking app from one person to the audience. So it was great to see it, and it has my wheels turning about how we might collaborate with you at CPC this year to do something similar. And again, I want to thank you for the offer here at the end because as one of the questions said, you know, what's the learning curve? And your answer was, as a facilitator, it does take some practice and getting used to. And so this opportunity online, anytime from anywhere can happen soon for anybody that is interested to learn more of those skills virtually. And also glad to know that you'll be with us in person at CPC in June as well. So thank you to everyone who participated with us, and thank you to Alexandre and Isabel for helping drive in the background. And we look forward to our continued collaboration with you and the wider audience.
Thank you very much, everybody. One last word of advice. If you have 5 minutes of your time, try to reflect on some of the things and try to think one takeaway out of this presentation. I think that if you stayed until the end to hear these words, maybe you have at least one takeaway. And I will keep the webinar open for about 2 or 3 minutes. So if you want to ask questions, ask the questions and we will answer all the questions by email after the session. Thank you very much, everybody. I hope you enjoyed. And if you want to contact us, don't hesitate. We are here for that. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. And thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.